dream is real.
Get up, get up, get up.
It's about to go down.
Newsflash.
Wake up, wake up, wake up.
Yeah.
Slacking on your pimpin', turn it up.
You know, if you're gonna shoot, you better shoot straight because a wounded animal is the worst thing you can deal with.
Facts.
Welcome to the Baller Alert Show, featuring your lifestyle specialist, Kenny Burns, with Sue Solo and Ferrari Simmons.
The dream is real.
Not too festive this morning. Sorry about the short part of the whatever.
Very
Dude.
short.
Yeah, I just can't feel my face right now. It's your lifestyle specialist, Kenny Burns.
Kid Ferrari Simmons.
Your favorite Ethiopian Sue Solo.
And the world is very sad today with the passing of a young legend out of California, L.A. Nipsey
By way
Hussle.
of Eritrea.
Yep. Nipsey Hussle has passed, was brutally murdered in front of his store in the neighborhood in which he owned. He actually bought the whole shopping center complex where he had his Marathon clothing store, and he was gunned down outside. No one has been arrested for it yet. We'll get into that momentarily. But I just want to start off the conversation, and we won't be doing the regular format today because we want to honor this brother in the right way. There's so many different things floating around on social media about what happened and why, so forth and so on. I want to start by saying that Nipsey, if you look back the last couple years, has only been talking about progression. He has been buying property. He has been promoting and preaching that, buying back your neighborhood is very important, and, what we can do as a people if we stuck together, so forth and so on. And now all you're hearing in the social sphere from the naysayers or the haters, if you will, is he was a gangbanger. And what type of life did you expect if he continuously, honored this, that, and the third? Well, if you grew up in a neighborhood such as Nipsey and Snoop and Game and a lot of people from the West Coast, there's only a couple different ways that you could do it. And that's not to say that some of those human beings aren't amazing people, don't have families, and don't take care of their responsibilities. And I want to jump into it, y'all. I think that, it's so much that we'll talk about today, but I want to start off by saying that he was a super solid individual. And this is from someone who knew him, someone who broke a lot of bread together, and had the talks about what was coming and how we could grow. I mean, as you get older, obviously he was 33 years old. He had made it out of his 20s. And all the reckless things we do in our younger ages, not knowing who we are. This is a process, and he really got into his bag and really started to define who he was, and then started to project that awesomeness to everybody else. But the one thing I want to start with is they have this conspiracy going around, and social media being the just ridiculousness that it could be, is saying that, because he was working on this documentary about Dr. Sebi. If you don't know who Dr. Sebi is, Dr. Sebi, he cured AIDS. It was proven. He had, these conversations through video.
Left Eye in her last days.
Yeah, that's what Left Eye was actually when she had the trouble. But anyway, he just basically he knew more than he was supposed to know. And I truly believe that was a conspiracy and the government killed him. I believe that.
It was a very mysterious death, and we still don't really know what happened.
I believe
they
that.
Killed Dr. Sebi for sure.
But I don't believe that Nipsey doing a documentary on him had anything to do with his death. And I see Instagram perpetuating that and keep, it wasn't him, it was assassination. And I
think the thing about that though, Kenny Burns, is it's very possible. It's very possible. There are a lot of things that it could be, and I'm not going to cancel out, the government being involved or just people not wanting him to grow in the direction that he was growing in, stunning his growth. I don't think that it's far-fetched. I don't know if that's the case, but I don't think it's far-fetched.
Yeah, I think, not to disrespect his movement, not to disrespect where he was in his life at the time, but Martin Luther King they want to get rid of because his pulpit is different. His following is different. Nipsey was concentrated in that area. he was just starting to be, I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Mainstream, yeah.
Mainstream. And it was not like he had that much information out there where he was going against, like he wasn't going against status quo. Like people that the government kill, I'm a conspiracy
But
theorist
think
in my
about like
mind.
the Ferguson activists who were doing well in their local communities. We didn't really know a lot of them by
Well, I
name,
can see
and they're
both sides.
disappearing.
I could see both sides. What you're saying, like for instance, for Sue, he was, broadening his community and helping black people and giving them jobs and bettering his community on a small scale. But like you're saying, like he wasn't like controlling the whole world
Totally,
or had
yeah.
everybody on his back like that.
Right.
So
Yeah,
kinda
I
see
definitely
It's
both
like
get
sides.
Farrakhan. It's like Farrakhan. Like if you look back before Farrakhan and the nation and what they practiced and they preached, I'm talking about it has
Nations,
yeah. I mean, it had really
But this
exactly.
is what we knew he was doing, though. We anybody could look at Nipsey. A new fan could just tune in for 2 weeks, 2 days, and know where this man was going. You could watch his interviews from the time he was 16, 17 years old, talking about investing in real estate. Like
100%.
there was no way that anybody could meet him or learn about him and not learn that. Like,
Well,
his
let's
vision
dispel
was
the
far
rumor.
bigger
We
than
know
that.
at Ball Alert that it was not a conspiracy by the government. It was somebody that he knew, and street justice has been given.
Well, I got to say something about that. Basically, had a couple of phone calls with a couple of my OGs that are familiar with a lot of things over there, and from what I was told, it was a dispute, and the dispute went bad. Old boy said, "I'll be back." Came back. So from what I heard, everyone knows exactly who it is.
Absolutely. And from what I hear, he's no longer with us. So I wanted to dispel that rumor, because I think when you get into conspiracy, it's like, and saying that the government did something, that's the easy out.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? That's the easy out. That's the easiest thing for us to go blame. You know what I'm saying? The white man. Let's keep it 1,000. Like, we want to blame that for being the case, and that was not
They
the
are
case.
to blame for quite a bit.
They are to blame for quite a bit, and they have taken a
And
number
they
of
are
people
doing
out
it, yeah.
that had voices and had the power to move people. 100%.
I do think that people thinking that it's a conspiracy or the government was associated, for me, helps me understand how big Nipsey actually really was. We're thinking he was like this local, just neighborhood Nip. Neighborhood Nip exists, and like his energy exists here in Atlanta. I was hanging out with Bocce last night, and I didn't even understand. Like I walked into his party, and I was like, something's off with Bocce, and everybody around him was just kind of partying and like trying to drink, and I was like, Bocce, are you okay? What's wrong? And then he just starts talking about how he booked Nipsey for his first party in Atlanta and how they grew a relationship, and he was really messed up, and it was a different perspective for me. Like, he really has touched a lot of people in so many different ways. Like, he's touched a lot of communities, the Habesha community, whether you're Ethiopian or Eritrean, we love that man. Gang members, people in the slums, people who are interested in growing professionally. Like, he touched a lot of different type of people, and I think that's why it wasn't hard for people to come up with the
But
conspiracy
I think
theory.
Nipsey Hussle had a lot of Tupac DNA in him too.
Totally.
So you could hear it in his music, because I was a fan. I bought the $100 album. Very pro-black, very pro us.
Community.
Very pro-community. Very like, we'll overcome these obstacles that we were in. And you could hear that in the music. Shoot, one of his biggest records, last time that I checked. I know it was a red part and it was a blue part, but people really was paying attention to the visuals, but didn't pay attention to what he was saying.
Mm-hmm.
Right. He tweeted hours before his death that having strong enemies is a blessing, and I think that was the first clue to kind of dispel all the rumors about the conspiracy.
That was from the
dispute.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that, it's sad because people, it's one thing, like I said, when you come up in something and you're so engulfed in it, and the street life is a part of your everyday. But at some point, you do have to distance yourself from those people in that kind of energy, because regardless of your growth and your maturity and you wanting to leave it alone,
Everybody ain't like that.
Everybody ain't like that. And that was like, the reason for my post before I went to sleep is it's like, y'all think this shit is like whole and they gonna be respecting you and they gonna care about the fact that you have a family and that you're doing right. They don't care. They don't care, and it's always someone trying to prove a point. It's always someone trying to prove a point. And I just think that here's another example of prophecy in a sense where you live by the sword, you die by the sword.
But
it's sad.
I hate to say this, but you know, rappers for some reason always die in their hood, in their neighborhood. But like Meek Mill said this song, it was all Championships album. I say it all the time. I forget the name of the song, but he tweeted it last night. I know they'll kill me in my hood, but I just keep on coming through. Still with it. Graveyard throwing a party for all the real niggas.
Yeah, but like real nigga what? Like what's and that's
he was in front of his store.
I'm with
though.
you. I'm with you. Like
I think what this does is it shows the lack of structure within our communities, right? Like if they're who's protecting these people? You know what I mean? Like if he comes from this community and we know that he's doing good and he's going to be a prophet low key, you know what I mean? Like he's going to be the person that really helps this community do better. Who in that community says, all right, look, if you ever decide to pull through, if you at your store, let us know. We got you. We just want to watch your back. Maybe he didn't want that energy, but so many times we lose people because nobody else is protecting them. Nobody's protecting the people that's actually protecting us. And that's where I think it gets really messed up at.
Well, and to that point, I think people just think they get to a point where they don't need it. You know what I'm saying?
He may have felt like he didn't need it. You know what I mean? But in the back, if I was that type of person, even if you told me you didn't need it, I'm going to keep an eye on you. Like,
but a perfect example with that would be like, you know, Killer Mike. Killer Mike does a lot of charitable work in Atlanta. Like he's one of the most charitable people in Atlanta. He doesn't walk around with a whole bunch of security. He does the same thing. He has businesses just like Nip. Nip was in his hood, place that he grew. That was Slauson. That's where he grew up. He grew up there.
How could you think somebody?
You should feel safe in places that you grew up. You know such and such. You know such and such. Again, I think
you feel comfort in that, but never safe.
I just think the person to blame is the person who did it.
Yeah,
totally.
That person. People need to like control their composure. There's other ways to handle conflict. Because now there's no coming back from that whole situation. You can't come back from that.
Right.
But they could have squashed it and did something together.
I just can't imagine how this person thought this was the best solution,
mentality.
let alone that they would get away with it. That's just what I don't understand.
That's even like Pac, how he used to say, you know, he's for his people, he ride for his people, he do everything for his people, and then he getting shot by his people.
Correct.
Yeah, but I think too it's actions, right? Like consequences beget consequences. If in Pac's case, you was in a fight, you was in a physical altercation,
kicking the dude in the head.
You know what I'm saying? And then you got murdered by the dude. You know what I'm saying? So my thing is like, I think it's prophetic in our music. If we are presenting a certain lifestyle, a certain way of life, we live by the gun, we die by the gun. These are actual words that Pac used. To live and die in LA. I mean, it's prophetic. Like you can't continue to put this type of, and trust me, as a 40-year-old grown man, I was that person. I was in that mix. I used to, you know what I'm saying? That was the mentality. Our mentality as teenagers was that if we're going to get caught, make sure you get caught with enough to get federal time because you didn't want to go to state. Like if we did X, Y, and Z, make sure you do this, that, and the third. So that was like a mentality.
It's such a crazy street mentality that we have and expect people to live by. Like I don't get it.
It's survival. It's survival. But I think that at a certain point, this is going to be my point, at a certain point, you have to decide like 100%, like not saying leave the hood alone, let the hood die off, let our people die off. But it's just certain places you can't be no more. You have to change, you know what I'm saying, your surroundings.
We've been conditioned to fight for ourselves and make sure that we're okay and watch your back. We've completely lost the sense of community. And I think that this is a big problem.
Yeah.
You can come into the hood and change the way it looks. You can change the way it smells. But if you can't tap into people's hearts and really change like how they live their day-to-day life and how they deal with people, we're going to continue to have these issues.
But that was Nip though. Like Nip will go to the hood.
That's what I feel like he was trying to
give
do.
somebody a haircut, pay for some people to do this, pay for this, pay for that.
He bought
the complex
Plaza.
of
I love
his things at. And I just think that sometimes when you grow up in those confines, like as you're coming up, you need to see somebody like Nip in the hood telling you, yeah, dog, don't do that. Stay in school.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Hit that basketball court, hit that football field. Sometimes I think if Nip wasn't there, if he's rarely there, who they gonna look to?
Yeah,
they're gonna look to
the gangbanger.
The gangbanger. Yeah. You should be able to see somebody because shit. LeBron ain't pulling up. Kobe ain't
That's why
pulling
I
up.
say
Well,
it's
LeBron
kinda
went back and
hard.
opened the school, but that's what I see. Hold on.
Yeah, but he ain't pulling up.
Yeah, but
Nip
okay,
pulling
I
up.
get it. But it's like you have to be able to be available for your people at all times, however far your trajectory goes, and that's a fact. And I am not saying leave your people behind. I am saying you get to a point in life where you can financially do things, because see, what people don't realize is time is necessary. We have to do that. It's our responsibility, right? But like Sue said, you going in, you doing your business, you protect it, you getting the message. But more than importantly, I just bought this section of the hood and it's going to be a better place. LeBron James, I'm going back to Akron. It's poverty everywhere. I'm doing a school forever that's going to be here.
Amazing.
So my point is, like, that's what we got to do. And Nip was working. Nip wasn't financially that he can go just open schools and do that type of shit, but he was big enough where this type of shit could happen.
He absolutely did his part. He
You feel me?
absolutely did his part.
100%.
And I hope and pray that whoever was fortunate enough to be in the neighborhood whenever he pulled up and gave his random speeches or words of wisdom, I hope that you feel inspired enough to keep it going. I hope that you don't go back to maybe how you used to act before you met Nip, or I just hope you continue to take all the lessons he gave and grow, because what we have is proof of everything he said. We have amazing videos and content that we can go back and listen to these words over and over and over again and apply them into our everyday lives, and that's what's going to change the community.
Yeah.
Period.
Somebody practicing what they preach.
Totally.
Yeah. And if you look at those videos she mentioned, you see him high back. And listen, he was high saying those things. He was nappy braids, the whole shit, but he was talking about empowerment. He was talking about changing the trajectory of thought process of all of that. And so that's the point.
You can be gang affiliated, smoke weed, you can come from the hood, but you can still buy businesses, own property. He owned his own music. Like, come on, man. Like,
yeah, real entrepreneur, and got it from the mud, and you got to respect
leader,
that.
a true leader. And if anybody doubts that, like,
yeah, just shoot
There's
yourself.
way too much
you're the
evidence for
problem.
anybody to have any doubts.
Yeah, but hate. We're gonna talk about hate a little bit more, but I want to talk about these nip tips. I'm gonna call them nip tips, and this 7 money and ownership lessons by Nipsey Hussle. Number 1, on Hustlenomics, you learn all the secrets to the game on your way up. Most folk want to skip the process, but when you skip the steps, you miss the lessons. Number 2, on Turn Up versus Own Up. It isn't cool to be in the club spending all of your money or having cars and jewelry, but you don't own any real estate. A fourplex. If the answer is no, you're not a real hustler. Number 3, entrepreneurship. The new mindset is that we don't want advances. We want equity. We don't want one-off endorsements. We want ownership. Love number 3. Number 4, black capital. Biz models are built around our culture currency. They develop the platform, implement structure, and bring us to raise value. That's very important. Don't let them just, come on, Nip. Number 5, on breaking the chains. Own the supply chain from production to consumption. People take shots at Jay-Z, but he's the first black artist to have a vertically integrated business model where he owns the whole chain. These are Nip's words, by the way. Number 6, on creating value. I released 100 mixtapes and charged $1,000 for each because I understood the economic principle of scarcity. The profit funded my independent label. Number 7, on owning real estate. I owned the block where I used to hustle from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. I hustled, then I rented. Now me and David Gross will own in Crenshaw. And these are like tips he was just throwing out there, like of his process.
Things that he was doing, things that he had experienced.
And that's amazing, man. Like, but if you really thought about it, I was having a conversation the other day, and they were like, the difference between billionaires and millionaires. Billionaires think of something to consume that a billion people need. Millionaires think of things that a million people, you know what I mean? And that's so forth and so on. I think that's so real. That's so real. If you think about Apple, the reason why they have more money than God is because no one can do without this. On earth, if you're anywhere in the mobile culture we live in, you got to have a phone.
Creating a service that people need.
You know, and I think that's what the brilliance of Nipsey was. You know what I'm saying? I understand the value of my prophetic ability. Like, I am a prophet. I speak to a certain person that's gonna take this, da, da, da. And as he grew, like, because when he started, like, it was like I'm a Crip. Then he was like, nah, my heritage is from Eritrea. Like, I this, that, and the third. Oh, okay, boom, I'm gonna own this business. I'm gonna put it. And it was just such a beautiful transition in his trajectory at every corner. And I just, I feel like we just get into this bag of like, we gotta be one way. You know what I mean? We gotta be one way, we gotta do one thing. And he was a prime example that we could do multiple things. But I think this 7-step process, man, was so genius. And if you just took it literally, I mean, because he wasn't saying big words. I mean, scarcity was only where he was speaking to us. Like, I mean,
he was speaking in a way that he felt the people that he needed to influence the most would understand. I feel like, I think because, he was a known gang member, he wanted to really talk to them.
Absolutely.
And it could be the way that he knows best, the way that he learns.
Yeah. It's just sad, man, because it's a perpetual cycle, man. And I think that we just have to know that this is my brother, this is my sister, and whatever happens, it has to be whole. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we got to look out for each other. We can't be out here like, and I know a lot of people's first nature is to help, but then you look at these videos of people taping, people getting punched in the face, and old ladies, I don't give a fuck. The lady said, I'm gonna blow the train up. Unless you saw it, then you gonna go kick the lady in the, I mean, it's just the non-compassion for our own culture is disturbing. It is disturbing to see all this continuous violence amongst each other.
Also, prayers and condolences to Lauren London and
100%.
The whole Nipsey family, 'cause
Everyone.
You could definitely, you know what I'm saying, I know she probably going through it right now.
I mean, there's been a major, like, outpour all over social media. So many Ethiopians and Eritreans, like, really popular accounts. Actually, I have, you guys know Lola Monroe?
Yep.
She's at I am Queen Ro on Instagram, and she said, I'm tired of seeing black men dying. I'm tired of seeing how much black men have to fight for their lives. I'm tired of seeing black men beating the odds, doing good just for their lives to be taken. She said so much prior to that about, like, how he was one of the first people to embrace her as a rapper, even when it wasn't popular. You guys know, like, she came from
DC.
Music videos, and she's had her thing. And at that time, people were really, I feel like, trying to block her. Like, oh, and I'm so understanding of that, especially being Habesha. Like, we're not raised to be entertainers. We're not raised to be in media. We are raised to be doctors, lawyers, something like that. So you already have this cultural thing in the background that's tugging at you, like, hey, no, we want you to go this way. But then when you have somebody in the industry like a Nipsey Hussle telling you, hey, sis, like, go ahead, you got it, like, push through, our culture will love you regardless. Like, I could not even imagine what their relationship was like, or what even that just little interaction was, because I was really hoping to work with him and meet him at some point, and I really just felt like,
just say what you said on your gram.
I just felt like culturally we would connect. I felt like it would be an amazing interview. I felt like it would be super easy and just genuine. I really felt like because of our background, he would just kind of take that big brother role and kind of navigate me or help me through some stuff. I thought we'd be going to an Ethiopian restaurant or Eritrean restaurant in LA. Like, I just really had this whole vision of what our relationship would be like had we ever met. And I knew that I'd be able to talk to him about, man, how was it with your parents? Like, did your parents allow you to do this? Like, were they supportive? Like, it's such a big thing to see someone in the Habesha community do what he's doing, or do what he's done. So it's a big loss. This other, like, really popular Habesha account, Salam Central, said he represented what a true leader was. Instead of selling out, he constantly found ways to funnel his money and uplift his people and community. He actually took a trip to Eritrea last year, which was, like, publicized. Like, I remember just seeing so many people repost this image of him, like, in the village. If you look in the background of the photo, you don't see buildings, you don't see mansions, you see farmland. Yeah. You see hills and plateaus, and me seeing that, I was like, wow, like, I've been there, you know what I'm saying? Like, not to Eritrea, I've been to Ethiopia, but I've been in that setting. My grandmother lives in a mud hut. Yeah. Like, I have family that still lives in mud huts, and I just cannot explain what our culture, like, whenever we know somebody that's from, like, whenever we know someone of our culture, someone who's doing something, we just have this bond. Like, you might see somebody in the grocery store, and if you could tell they're Habesha, you're gonna say hello. That's just
part
we
of it,
are we're just a very close culture. We're very compassionate. We just love peace and love, and the entire community is messed up over this. The entire, even the people that did not listen to him, even the old heads who didn't understand him,
right? But he was
they
one of,
understood
he was one of
they understood what he poured into us. They didn't listen to his music, but they definitely understood what he was doing for the community, and everybody is taking a hit. There's actually like a hazen is what we call it in our culture, where if someone passes, everybody comes together and mourns. You don't let the person, like Lauren London should not be alone. Like in American culture, sometimes you're like, hey, I need my space. In our culture, we're not leaving you alone for 7 days. Like, we're going to cry with you every time you cry. We're going to feed you. We're bringing refreshments to your home. Like, we cried together. And as a kid, I used to think it was torture. Like, I used to hate being there because the room would be quiet and then someone new would walk in and they start crying. Next thing you know, everyone starts crying again. And I thought that was torture.
Right.
But then at the end of the 7 days, you feel so much love and so much relief, and like you got so much of the grief out. It's a beautiful culture, and they're actually doing something like that here in Atlanta at the Eritrean Community Center in Stone Mountain. So
that's dope. You going?
Yeah, I'm definitely going.
And you know, Nipsey always was in Atlanta too, because of the
culture,
Eritrean culture here in Atlanta.
Huge
so he was always. I met him
yeah.
about 4 or 5 times. So, and every time I spoke to him, it was a good convo, good dude, good energy.
Yeah,
my, like palms are sweating just like thinking about the Hazen and all these candlelit vigils. DJ Era, I spoke to him earlier.
You know, Era grew up in the same neighborhood.
Place, and I had to call him and check on him because he was posting so many photos of him and Nipsey, and how his first job was associated to working with Nipsey, and I cannot believe how many people locally are affected by him.
I don't think I've seen this kind of outpour and celebration with pictures and all these
in a while. Yeah, I wanted
in a long time.
Yeah, I had to say because you know sometimes when people die, I just been surrounded by death since I was a kid. A lot of my friends passed away. Like my best friend got hit by a car in front of me and died in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. he was dead. He was on the machine for like 4 days after that. But I just, you know, when people die, I kind of just get quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know how to react. But I had to say something because the energy I met when, you know, it's just an energy thing. You can't explain energy. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
And every time we, you know, it wasn't long either. You know, I'm not gonna be claiming to say that we was super cool or anything like that. But you know, by the 4th time I met him, he was like, "Rory, what up?" I was like, "Damn, you know my name? Okay, cool. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just good energy.
Yeah,
you can feel the frequency between people too.
Yeah.
That's why I was saying, like, he can be in those areas because it's kind of like, oh, that's Nip. You don't fuck with Nip.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Well,
like,
you don't even have the energy of like,
it's not
fuck
that type
you,
of
nigga.
energy.
I'm coming through here with the bullshit.
I'm coming through here like, shit, I'm trying to make sure that everything good around here. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Who would want to do that to him?
People don't like that.
Yeah. That's why I said, as soon as I heard, I said, oh man, it's about to go down. It's going down.
Yeah,
no, it went down.
I heard summer was canceled in
April
LA.
Fool's Day, summer, all that, yeah.
No, it's just you know what it is, man. I think too, and we should all give our like closing remarks so we can let this rest. But you know, to your point though, I think that you know when you have a light, it blinds people. You know what I'm saying? His light was so bright, you know, and it was genuine, and it was not confrontational. It was you know, and to be a gang member and this, you know, enormous figure, because he was 6'5", damn near 6, whatever he was, you know, he had presence. He walked into the room, you knew he was there, and when he spoke volumes. And I think that at the end of the day, that intimidates people, and it's sad that it does. Definitely. Because you know, if you would listen to his songs, you know, I mean, I'm listening this morning. Like I pulled up, you got in the car, I'm banging. I just wanted to remind myself of why, you know what I'm saying, I fell in love with Dude as an artist. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Then that also amplified how I got to know him and how we got into making money together and this, that, and the third. But I think, you know, ultimately, and I want you guys to leave, you know, your final thoughts on it, but ultimately we got to come together, and it has to be more than, you know what I'm saying, like, it has to be more than I like their music. Like I'm here for the music. No, this is a human being with a family. But let's close out and get this man his due.
I just hope this is an example to the youth that you shouldn't take life for granted. You know, my condolences to Nipsey Hussle, his family, his beautiful kids. May you rest in peace. And I hope that we can, band together as a culture, not just only the black community. I just think as a culture too, because he was so culturally defined. White kids, black kids, all type of kids listen to his music, and he had a real message in his music. Like, if you really listen to Nipsey Hussle, he had a message in his music,
motivational
every
music.
time.
And he would tell you, like, yeah, you come across this line. If you come across this line, something may happen to you, or you can make it out and be like me. Like, I always felt, goosebumps in his music.
Definitely.
And I really appreciate this last piece of work that he dropped. He just dropped a song with Roddy Ricch. That's hard. And when I was watching the video like 4 days ago, I felt eerie because he's talking about life and death.
He does so much.
But this, like, a couple days ago, I was like, damn, he's speaking some shit like he always do. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just hate when people of his stature are taken away from us before his time. I just felt like it wasn't his time. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I agree.
That's kind of why I walked in. He was like, "What's wrong?" I just felt like it wasn't his time. He still had a message, And then, like, him and Lauren London was a beautiful couple.
Beautiful.
They just took a photo shoot in Slauson.
Yeah, that
and,
GQ
she's from
photo shoot.
Slauson too. They grew up together.
That GQ photo shoot.
You know what I'm saying? They did a GQ photo shoot. They just did a little couples thing on YouTube. That's super funny and super dope. Where Lauren's asking them questions. I just
What's
felt
your
like
favorite celebrity crush and all that?
You know what I'm saying? Like, shit like that, man. Like, that's like, you know what I'm saying? You can't get that back. You know what I'm saying? This kid's gonna grow up. He can't get that time back.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You can't get that back. So, that's all I got to say.
I hope that I can speak for the entire Habesha community, like whether you're Ethiopian or Eritrean, but Nipsey Hussle, Ermias, I mean, he really inspired so many of us that are creative and want to be in entertainment or just want to be different, whether it's tattoos, the way you wear your hair, the people you date, who you fall in love with. Like, he was a true representation of you can just be who you are. I can respect my culture. I can respect my parents. I can make them proud, even though I may go off the path that they chose for me. So I'm so grateful for you and everything that you've done for our community. And I pray that we can uplift you and continue to ride with you.
That was dope. There will be no Confucius says today, but I do want to say this is all so contradictory. I mean, here you have this young man who spoke all the, stereotypical things in his music, but I think it was overshadowed by his true message. And when you have an opportunity to get right, and you get right, you practice, you start practicing what you preach, and all the things that were, holding you down, so to speak, like the thought that you had to be down with these people in your neighborhood because that was the thing that was supposed to be. And, I'm supposed to ride in this car with this dude that's going to do this crime because at the end of the day, that's my partner or whatever that is. I think Nip broke away those chains, and by doing so, he inspired many. And I did a post that said, the streets don't love you like you think they do. And it's the realest shit ever because we are the most crab in the barrel mentality when it comes to culture, like ever. And we have to stop. We have to stop. We can no longer continue to put each other down like this, put each other in boxes like this. Like, this is so permanent. This is so permanent. And if you ask half the killers out there that do this shit after, it's like a blink. Like, they don't even know why or they feel bad. And my thing is, like, it don't even have to be that. When last time you fought somebody you ain't like? All you professed killers and gangsters, like, what happened to a fair one? You don't like somebody, knock them out. You ain't got to kill them. This man's gone forever. He leaves behind 2 children, an adoring wife, as far as I'm concerned, and they will never know his true potential. So I promise you, Baller Nation, this is something that as a community, everything we talked about today, it's important that we, go back and reflect. Yes, he said things early on in his career that he didn't, but he finished the way he was supposed to finish. His legacy is complete. I know there was more, but it's complete. Yeah. And that's, you can't say that about everybody that's out here still breathing that does way more bullshit than not. So go forth, Baller Nation. Be kind to one another. We'll see y'all next time. Peace.
Baller alert! The dream is real.